This player that you're watching right now is Oliver Gibson, and he was a heck of a player for nearly a decade in the National Football League. The Cincinnati Bengals didn't get a ton of recognition during the early 2000s, and if they did, it was because of how bad they were. There were a lot of bright spots on those Bengals teams prior to Marvin Lewis becoming the head coach. However, Oliver Gibson was one of them, as he was consistently a menace on the defensive line. After playing his first 4 seasons in Pittsburgh as a rotational piece, Gibson found a home in Cincinnati, and before a season-ending Achilles injury in 2002 derailed his career, he was one of the most underrated players in the NFL, starting every game from 1999 until his injury midway through that 2002 season, and consistently getting pressure and making plays in the backfield. You could make the legitimate argument that of all the players taken in the 4th round of the 1995 NFL Draft, that he was the best player of the bunch. Not that there's a lot of competition, because that 4th round kind of stunk that year, but still, Oliver Gibson was a really good player. Today, Gibson's name has largely been forgotten throughout NFL history, despite the fact that he was a good player, and it's not hard to see why. For one, he played on some really bad Bengals teams that did not get a lot of love or national games. He didn't receive any accolades or put up monster numbers. He didn't start any playoff games. He never found the end zone on a touchdown. He played a position that is not even the slightest bit glamorous, as he was an interior defensive lineman, and there are a ton of players who were solid during their time period, but never got the accolades that get forgotten about with the passage of time. Heck, there's a chance that if you didn't watch football back then, you had no idea who Oliver Gibson was when you clicked on this video. However, I think in light of his premature death, he deserves to be remembered not for what he did on the field, but rather for what he did off of it. Sure, he was a great player, and you don't play a decade in the NFL as a 4th round pick at defensive tackle if you're not doing something right. But one of the big things that the NFL preaches is the importance of having a life outside of football. Football isn't everything, and it's important that you diversify your interests and have a plan and ambition once your career comes to an end, whenever it may be. But what if that plan comes while you're playing? What if you somehow manage to do a billion things at once, all while playing at a super high level? Because I promise you, as busy as you may seem in your life, and as busy as you may be, it doesn't even hold a candle to what Oliver Gibson was doing, whose story should serve as an inspiration all these years later. Because this is the story behind Oliver Gibson, otherwise known as the busiest man in NFL history. Make sure you hit that like button down below, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we post on the channel, because we post every single day on here about the weird and the wacky history of the NFL, with stories like this one that you may not have heard of before. So if you like that sort of stuff and want to learn more, then this is definitely the place for you. Thanks in advance for liking and subscribing, and for helping grow this community. And with that in mind, let's talk about the man who seemingly had as many professions as the Bengals had stripes on their helmets. We're just going to jump straight into this, keeping in mind that Oliver Gibson was a starter on the Bengals, and a darn good one at that, during all of this. Being an NFL player is a full-time job by itself. You have to go to practice. You have to work out. You have to study film and attend meetings. You have to do PR visits and press conferences and whatnot. And you have to devote basically every hour of your day to staying in shape and in the best possible condition. There are plenty of players who play in the NFL, and while they're playing, that's all they do. They have no other responsibilities, they have no other hats to wear, and they have nothing else to juggle. And that is totally fine. Maybe they also have to be a parent and provide for their family and be a good father for their kids, which Gibson also was, as he had a son named Zachary, who, for what it's worth, went on to play college football at Southern Illinois. But outside of being a player and being a father, many players do nothing else, which is perfectly normal and perfectly fine. Oliver Gibson was not one of those guys, because Gibson had a go-getting mindset to always be on the grind from day one. His father, Dave, always told his son, never be able to say, I wish, I should, or I could have. In other words, don't have any regrets about not doing things. If there's something that you want to do, make it work and do it. If there's something that interests you, pursue it and find the time for it. Don't look back. As Oliver said on his father's words of wisdom, I've always tried to take that philosophy and just do everything I could. Unfortunately for Oliver, his father died fairly young, as Dave died in 1996. But Oliver really took those words to heart, especially since he had some extra money, not just from playing in the NFL, but from making it to the Super Bowl his first season with the Pittsburgh Steelers, as he played in Super Bowl 30. This gave him a pretty nice bonus. Because when I say that Oliver Gibson did everything and lived his life with no regrets, I truly mean it. Because he wore about 10,000 different hats. Get ready for this, because you're not going to believe how one man has time to do all of this, let alone a person who was already playing as a full-time starter in the NFL and was a father. For starters, Gibson was a philanthropist and had a foundation called the Big 99 Foundation, in honor of his jersey number, 99. The goal of this was to give back to the youth of Illinois, even going as far as creating a youth football program for kids to stay out of trouble and stay active in a friendly, competitive environment. If you're wondering why Illinois, despite playing for the Cincinnati Bengals in Ohio, Gibson's parents lived there, and he was born and raised there, only leaving the state once he got the opportunity to play at Notre Dame. Okay, so he had a charity and was a father on top of playing in the NFL. Impressive stuff, but plenty of players have a charity and give back to the community. It's noble for sure, but to say that Gibson is the busiest player in NFL history because of it seems like a stretch, don't you think? Well, Gibson was also going to school during all of this, getting his master's degree. Gibson was a true Renaissance man and was fascinated with American literature. He loved the poems of Emerson, the style of Hemingway, and the works of his favorite author, Mark Twain. With that, he did his dissertation on Mark Twain to get his master's in English. Gibson was adamant about getting this done while he was playing, working on his dissertation during his off time whenever he could. Okay, so this is admittedly impressive, but there have been quite a few players to be fathers, have charitable foundations, and go to school. But what if I also said that Oliver Gibson ran a business? Because after the Steelers made it to the Super Bowl, he took that bonus and decided to start his own record label. Gibson was always fascinated with music. He loved just about every genre under the sun, from hip-hop to jazz and everything in between. He said, "My father was a big Miles Davis fan," and he later added, "I had a father who swore he could sing, so I grew up with a lot of classic soul. Barry White, Sam Cooke, Marvin Gaye. Music is the one thing that has always brought me solace." He DJ'd a bit in high school and college, and always had a passion for music and pursuing that alongside his football career. As Gibson said, "Football is entertainment. I like football. I love to be able to play the game for a living. But the same way, I'd love to be able to record and sell music for a living. That's always been my passion." It's funny because he was far from the first Bengal defensive lineman to try and make it in the industry. Mike Reed was an incredible defensive tackle for the Bengals in the early 1970s, but is best known today for writing some of the biggest country songs of the 1980s, including "Stranger in My House" for Ronnie Millsap, which won a Grammy. But Gibson was holding meetings 1 hour a day during the season for his company, looking to sign guys during the season, and was producing songs in the off-season in his studio, whether that was in Newark or Chicago, as he had a studio in both locations. He produced albums, he had quite a few people on his roster, he played some instruments, and some of what his label put out, Babbo's Son, is on YouTube today. Here's a sample of one of the songs recorded by an artist that he signed named ED called Wig Out.
You know I'm gon' ride with my people. You know I'm gon' die with my people. Niggas that wanna be part of this, I'm like, whoa, yo, I'ma take your wig out. Wig out. You know I'm gon' ride with my people. You know I'm gon' die with my people. Niggas that wanna be part of this, I'm like, whoa, yo, I'ma take your wig out. Wig out.
I'll leave a link to the whole song in the description below, and I gotta say, this song easily sounds like it could fit on the radio in 2000, the year that it came out, which is a huge compliment. Anyways, this all seems like a lot of work, and absolutely insane that he could pull this off. Just to recap so far, he plays in the NFL as an every-game starter at a high level. He is a father. He runs a charitable organization. He's getting his master's and doing his dissertation, and he's running his own business on top of that in the music industry. Well, what if I said that he also owned a second business? What if I said that he ran not one, but two businesses, not even counting his charity? Because aside from music and literature, Gibson was also fascinated by architecture. Remember how we said that Gibson had a place in Chicago? After he bought the loft next door, knocked down the wall, and experimented with the designs, he realized that he may also have a knack for that. With that, he started a company, Maddie & Gibson Construction, which was responsible for buying and redesigning apartments throughout Chicago, and even expanding in 2001 to funeral homes and redesigning and constructing those. He spent a ton of time on that business too, and during the season, he spent 1 hour every day after spending an hour with his record label, Babbo's Son, to consult his business partner on that. He was not a silent investor. He was running the thing. And aside from the meetings, he was very involved in the entire process, with that funeral home I mentioned opening up in October of 2001, as in the heart of football season. Oliver Gibson was basically doing anything and everything with his life, and how he had any free time, let alone any time to sleep, I have no idea. But that's just how the man was wired. As he said, the whole entire thing came from my parents. It's kind of in my blood. As Bengals defensive coordinator Mark Duffner said on how smart, how committed, and how brilliant his star player was, he could go into any organization and become the CEO. And seeing as he managed to do all of this at a high and consistent level, I 100% believe it. The fact that Oliver Gibson died young is awful. Being just 53 years old before going out is far too young for anyone to go. However, at least he went without having any regrets about not being able to do everything he wanted to do, because the man truly was able to accomplish just about everything, and then some. He was super busy all the time and lived his life to the fullest. Give back to the community? Check. Play in the NFL at a high level for a decade? Check. Raise a son and help send him off to college to follow in your footsteps? Check. Run not one, but two companies? Check. Get a higher education? Check. And he did all of this at the exact same time. There was nothing that this man couldn't do. Genuinely, I know there are only 24 hours in a day, but Gibson made it seem like there were 50 with how much he was doing and how many hats he was wearing. Oliver Gibson should be an inspiration today to any and all NFL players that there is more to life than football, and that if you want to achieve something, you don't have to wait until you retire to do it, as you'll be able to find the time to make it work if you want it badly enough. There are some guys that you have to worry about off the field in terms of what's going to happen after their playing career comes to an end. Oliver Gibson was the exact opposite of that, because the man truly could do it all. Today, Oliver Gibson's legacy lives on, not just as a great defensive tackle around the turn of the millennium, but as one of the most accomplished players in NFL history for what he did off the field while playing, because no one maximized 24 hours in NFL history better than Oliver Gibson did. Rest in peace to an absolute legend. Check out our live streaming schedule for the next few days. We're live every single day on this channel, whether we're covering a sporting event or playing GeoGuessr or just taking your requests. So make sure you like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single time that we go live and so that you can join this community. Also, thanks to all our members and our Patreon supporters who get exclusive perks like their name at the end of each video, members-only Q&A streams, and cool emojis to use on videos and during streams. See how you can join this community and become a member or a Patreon member by clicking the link in the description below.